Got it.
Yeah.
So, am I right in saying it sounds very competition focused?
Yeah, very competition focused for sure.
Got it. Is there Sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Oh, I was gonna say, is there, because like in jiu-jitsu we have like the hobbyist
Yeah.
who like just goes and trains for fun, right? Like a recreational activity, and then you have a separate group of competitors. And everything I'm hearing you saying in wrestling seems to, all of it goes down to like competition.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's because you're a competitor, therefore like all of the training that you're doing is because of that, or is there the other side to wrestling as well?
Yeah. I would say what separates wrestling, like that makes us more on the competitive side, is that you don't have the belt system. So, I'm not like, I'm not training to get to a black belt or anything like that. The only thing I can possibly train for is to succeed and win a tournament or something like that. So that's where it becomes more competitive or like competition focused.
Got it.
But you definitely have like people that are like, they just like to compete. Maybe they're not the best or they don't train as hard, but they're just like, I enjoy the feeling of competing and getting myself out there, and it's fun. And you see that too. They'll go to like maybe more local tournaments and they'll just, have a good time. It feels good to compete. It feels good to grapple against other people and maybe get a win, and so you definitely see that side of it too.
Even the hobbyists in wrestling are competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. It's very okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. Yeah, that was all I had on that.
Okay.
Can you rank in order of toughness wrestlers, judokas, BJJ athletes?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that, given that I'm, this is a jiu-jitsu.
No.
No, man, it's okay.
They're all tough sports. At the end of the day, you get to the very highest level of all of them, and it's very equal. Everybody wants to win. They're all hardworking. They all put in the hours, and I think that's, in general, that's like all sports. Like everybody's at that very highest level. They're all freaking really tough.
Yeah, that was a very diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
As a jiu-jitsu player, I can say that we're typically scared when a wrestler walks in the room because
everybody's on high alert for sure.
Yeah. I think especially at competitions, because like the thing at like jiu-jitsu competitions, as soon as a judoka or a wrestler walks in there, everybody's like, okay, this guy, like, we're just gonna pull guard right away. That's
right.
But yeah,
there have been I guess one occasion, this is in the training room, I did not know that he was a judo black belt. He's a jiu-jitsu white belt. Maybe he had just got his blue belt, I can't remember. And I had no clue. I didn't know what was going on. We slap, bump, and then we make grips or whatever. And it was a couple seconds where I was flying through the air. And I remember making eye contact with my coach and a couple other people, like, what the fuck is going on? As I'm going through the air. And he's like way smaller than me too.
Yeah.
Later on, it comes out that he's a judo black belt. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
all right, that makes sense that I would be flying through the air that way.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I mean, I can confirm what Josh is saying. Is like every time if there's a high level wrestler who comes in, we're like, okay, gotta mind your P's and Q's, make sure you're like very, very aware of what's going on, because that person grapples at a different pace.
It's different. Yeah,
it's different. It's a different experience.
Yeah. I guess if I could say anything about wrestling, I would say that it's just a little bit higher pace,
Right.
because of you're just in a constant squat position basically, and the way that you have to move. I would say it's a little bit faster pace than maybe jiu-jitsu, but I think that's really all I could say about that. Wrestlers, and maybe on top of that, wrestlers we're more meatheads. I guess like, it's just like more like, oh, we're gonna beat you up, like
One of the things, Josh, you and I were talking about the other day is like, you went to judo and you were working on your ground game and you were able to do a lot of stuff to a lot of people that they probably, so they may think the same thing about jiu-jitsu people. It's like, oh shit, I don't want to end up on the ground with this guy.
Right.
It's gonna be a bad time for me. So, I wonder if wrestlers see judokas or jiu-jitsu athletes and are like, oh shit, like what the fuck?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. It's like with judo, if I knew a guy was like a really good judo fighter, I'm not going over unders with him.
Yeah.
Like people that wrestle me, they don't really go over unders if they know that I have a judo background. And if you're a good jiu-jitsu fighter and you're like a really good wrestler, I'm probably not gonna get in a scramble with you because you're gonna know how to move in those areas. So what's next for you guys? Maybe maybe about with jiu-jitsu, and then maybe with like, the podcast.
I mean, as far as the podcast goes, we actually just had these nice new shirts made.
I see
So
that.
if anybody's watching and is interested, we are exploring some brand options. Our goal for the podcast is just to get this out to as many jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu adjacent, or I should say, to bring on as many jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu adjacent personalities, so that we can share as much value as we can with the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah,
because I think there's something to be learned from wrestlers and from judokas and other jiu-jitsu athletes who maybe don't share the same perspectives that we do. So that's the ultimate goal. Like, we just want to provide as much value for the jiu-jitsu community as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then as far as jiu-jitsu goes, me personally, Master Worlds in August.
Heck yeah.
And then there are several tournaments leading up to that I'll use to prep for it. And hopefully, I mean, I don't know what this looks like, but I'm hopefully getting close to my black belt.
Heck yeah.
So as a longer term goal, obviously that's not always up to me, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't want it.
Yeah.
Like I want to reach that level, and I want to be able to compete at that level. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to, is, kind of reaching the next tier.
Yeah.
So.
And this is actually something they say in judo. After you get your black belt, that's when the journey starts.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the same thing in
Same
jiu-jitsu.
thing in
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, yeah. You get your black belt, and it's like, don't settle for just the black belt. It's like, that's where everything starts.
Yeah.
That's where you enter the world of like eliteness, right? Like that. For wrestling, I would say that's like when it's like the transition from maybe the high school level to the college level, and now you're competing for national and world titles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For me, actually, that made me think of a question for you. But so for me, what I'd been doing since like beginning of 2022, which is a little more uncommon on the jiu-jitsu side, is I was almost competing at a rate of like every week. Like it would kind of be every week or every 2 weeks or something. And my body didn't start breaking down until like 3 months ago or something, or in November. How long ago was that?
5 months ago.
Yeah, 5 months ago or something. Got like some AC joint injury, so I haven't been able to actually hurt. Yeah, got a grade 2 AC joint separation 2 weekends ago. And I'm realizing very soon, at least for me being 31 years old, I don't know how much that has to do with it, but it might have something to do with it. Just that frequency of competition. I wanted to keep up, but I don't know if I can. But the reason I bring this up is because that pace of competition seemed unusual to a lot of my jiu-jitsu friends.
Yeah.
But you coming from a wrestling background, from what I understand, the pace is pretty frequent, pretty high, right?
Yeah, to an extent. I would say, the higher the level, the less those guys compete. For example, the world level, they compete. You have guys that are competing maybe twice a year. Like the very best guys are competing 2 to 3 times a year, which is on the lower end. I would say a lot of high schoolers, they're competing more frequently.
Got it.
Because, going back to your example, we're younger. We have, we recover much faster. For college season, there's like the season, so they're actually having their dual meets. And I would say the difference with that is it's one match versus a whole tournament. And they're doing that almost on a weekly basis. But they also have like, alternates that take a week. And so, gives the main guy a week to recover or whatever.
Okay.
For me, I think the best frequency is once a month. You compete once a month, kind of gives you 4 weeks to, a few days off after competition. Usually I finish a competition, I got black eye, something's hurting,
Right.
So I give myself a few days off, 3.5 weeks to prep, then I compete again. And then just kind of like finding certain slots where I give myself an extended period. For example, January I competed, and I had from January to April to kind of like, make some growth into my next phase of competition. So April I'll go, that'll be a big month for me. I'll go, they call it a last chance qualifier. So that qualifies me for Olympic trials. And then Olympic trials would be 2 weeks after that. and then I would have my age level world championship trials. So I would compete at the trials, and then assuming I make it a team, I would be on both teams for USA. I'd be an Olympic team, and then my age level world team.
Got it.
Shit.
Yeah.
How long have you been? So, at what point did you sort of transition to, I guess, at like that once a month frequency?
I would say around. Well, actually, I guess it would be this last year.
Okay.
Because before that I was doing the traditional high school season, and so I was like having those dual meets and stuff like that. But now that I'm homeschooled and I'm doing a little bit of my own thing, I'm kind of like on that. They call it seniors, which is basically the post college level. I'm kind of like on that senior routine where I'm competing like a senior athlete would. I compete once a month, and I kind of choose the tournaments, the international or national tournaments I want to do, and I'm figuring out where and when I want to compete.
Got it.
I actually really like that. I think it's so much cooler. It's kind of like you feel like a professional athlete. In high school, I feel like a professional athlete. I get to dictate the competitions I want to choose and do.
Right.
I would argue that you are.
Yeah.
Despite maybe not getting paid a salary or whatever, but you're a professional through and through, man.
I guess so.
You have been since you were 11, honestly. Like, I would say that just my experience with you that year, the level of professionalism that you showed from a really young age was really, really impressive. And so, you're ready, man. You're there.
Yeah.
It's been cool to watch.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually wanted to circle back to one thing that we were talking about earlier. At the beginning, when we first started talking, it was interesting to me that when we were doing the match breakdown, you were mentioning your physical attributes. So like gas tank, strength.
Yeah.
And then you said also like during training, like one day you might be focusing on really like using your hands or really focusing on your agility and like that kind of stuff, which is interesting to hear you talk about because in the jiu-jitsu world, it's almost like frowned upon to talk about physical attributes.
It's
really?
there is a shift that's happening in jiu-jitsu. I think it traditionally was thought of as almost a like a negative thing to be strong, and
really?
it's even said like if you roll with somebody and then after the roll they're like, oh, you're so strong, it's like almost like an insult because it's as if they are saying your technique is not that good, but you are very strong. And it's like, well, okay, I want my technique to be really, really good.
I could see that for sure. So, the way my dad describes it to me is like, when you think about what you want, you're the most important attributes. I mean, imagine if you wrestled a gorilla, like, right? Like, just like, he grabs a hold of you and you really can't do anything. At the end of the day, it's about getting the job done and what it takes to win. And quite frankly, if you're really freaking strong, it's hard to beat you, even if you're not that technically good, which, I mean, you always want to be building your technique. But, if you're really, really strong, it makes a huge difference. You can stay in the match with anybody.
Absolutely.
And then obviously technique kills. If I was the most technical person on the earth, you're just not going to score on me because I'm going to figure out how to score in every single position. So the way I like to rank it is I would say technique's maybe 1. I would say maybe strength 2, and then maybe speed 3.
Interesting.
Is the way I would rank those.
As somebody who owns a strength and conditioning facility for jiu-jitsu athletes, I wholeheartly agree. I think strength and speed, just any physical attribute will amplify the technique that you've developed. And so, all things being equal, 2 people, equal skill, the stronger, faster, more mobile one wins. So it's something that we believe in very deeply in our space. So
yep. And it's actually funny that you brought that up because I remember there was like a phase where I was like, I want to be like the guy that's like really fast and really technical, and I would always have people like, dude, you feel like a horse. But I'm like, no, I want to be like really fast and slick, right? I'm like, I want those compliments instead, right?
Right.
But you know, I've kind of just accepted. I was like, yeah, I'm really strong, and that takes me a long way. Like, yeah, I'm so strong that you can't do that much to me, and that's pretty cool.
Right.
You know, but it's
Yeah.
cool to have a balance of everything.
That building that attribute, I think the reason that's important for anybody listening, the reason building strength is important is the stronger you are, the less energy you have to use to execute whatever technique it is that you're executing, right? Which means you've got a bigger gas tank, which means your match economy is much better, right? Like you're able to you know, your bandwidth for how much stress you can handle in any given situation is a little bit wider, which means you can think more. You've got more room to do other things than having to worry about the strength or speed or mobility of the other guy.
Yeah.
So
it's like a video game. Like, imagine you're playing with a character versus another character, and the other guy's got power-ups, right? Like, I could be like, no, I want my character to be like so good that he doesn't need power-ups, but it's like, now the other guy's got power-ups, and he's just, you know, he's hitting like a super smash on me, and there's nothing I can do about it, because, you know, I can't do that, given that I want to just, you know, be, you know, I don't want to use the power-ups, you know.
Do you play any video games?
A little bit, like a tiny bit.
What do you play?
I don't know if you remember, my dad was always like, kind of like the video games.
What games do you play when you play?
I play a little bit of Fortnite.
Okay.
That's my favorite game.
All right.
I kind of like hop on with the boys. We all kind of, you know, do that.
Do you keep in touch with any of the hockey guys?
Not really, to be honest. No,
Okay.
I mean, I follow all of them on Insta and stuff,
Okay.
but, you know, I think, you know, I kind of all just went separate ways.
Yeah, that's
so,
okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
If you ever want, come through the gym this summer. A bunch of the 05s are
Really?
Are coming back. Evan Tompkins will be there.
Really?
Actually, Zach Phillips. I think maybe Patrick Fast might be coming through too. So
That's
a bunch of
pretty
your old
cool.
buddies.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I tore both of my hamstrings.
Ooh.
And
At the same time?
At similar times. So it was the left one first,
Uh-huh.
high up in the hamstring. So it was just a really tricky
Like close to the
injury. Yeah.
glute? Okay.
And
How did that happen?
And what was that?
How did that happen?
I was in a position, my legs just kind of got extended, and they got caught on the mat, and I got twisted through, and it just kind of pulled all the way through.
Gosh.
And then the other side came with overcompensation.
Right.
So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm overcompensating
Yep.
for the left, the right, just, you know,
Yeah.
that one tore too. And that took like 10 months to recover because, you know, I was just being a little stubborn about getting on too early. And
Yeah.
so during that time period, I started getting back on the ice because skating is,
Really? Okay.
yeah, big, you know, build the hamstrings
yeah.
and that kind of.
And it's low impact.
Yeah, low impact
Yeah.
and, you know, builds a lot of strength in those areas. So I actually saw a lot of,
Cool.
I saw Coach Savoy and, you know, I saw Caden and Brett.
That's cool. Yeah. Caden will be back in the gym too.
Yeah. I saw Rio somewhat recently too.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Very cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I wanted to ask, going back on this topic of like building muscle and everything. So as you're trying to get stronger, are you finding yourself like moving up in weight class at all?
So this is the first time where I think I've kind of settled into a weight class from like, you know, I've constantly just been growing over the course of life.
Right.
And I think, you know, I've finally kind of settled out at my final weight, which is 65 kilos. That's 143. I walk around in the high 50s, so like close to like maybe 155, 160 almost. And so I think I'm finally kind of like at my final weight class. I don't know if I'd get much bigger than this, but for a little while it was like we were just trying to see how, you know, try to get me as big as we can because you know that's where the competition is, right?
You're trying to get
middle weights.
Oh, okay. You're trying to get as big as you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And so if you could get bigger just by building more and more muscle, would you keep trying to do that? Like,
I think for my height and my stature, I think this is a good size for me. I wouldn't want to be much bigger than this.
Okay.
It would be, you know, I think this is a good size for me where I'm big, I'm strong, I'm fast. You know, this is like the proper ratio for me. This weight. So I don't know that I would want to get much bigger than this.
okay, got it. I was just curious because yeah, just when I think about weight classes in jiu-jitsu and stuff, at a certain point, like moving up with my height specifically, as I move up in weight classes, the guys start getting like really tall. And,
Yeah.
But in the weight class you're in, are you matched up with guys who are like roughly your same like
Yeah. For the
stature most
part.
of the time? Okay, got it.
I mean, physical development was also like a big thing, like, puberty, right? Like,
Right.
I was just constantly growing and growing. I went from freshman year, I was 106. And the next year I was 130, and the next year I was 140, then 150, and now I'm kind of like, I think this is kind of where I'll finish off, kind of like end my weight, so.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can we touch a little bit more? You mentioned after tearing both your hamstrings that you were stubborn about coming back too early.
Yeah.
You mean you did you re-injure yourself a couple of times?
Multiple times.
Okay.
Like,
Can you talk to us about that? Why? What was going through your head? What did you felt ready, or did you maybe not feel ready but you wanted to push it anyway, or what was the thought process, or what went through your what'd you go through?
So that's the only injury I've ever had. I've broken fingers and stuff, but you tape those up. I've never had like concussion or like really anything like that. So it was the first time I was off the mat for an extended period of time. So I mean, I was just craving it. Like, I just think about it every day. I remember I felt like I had a major personality change. Because, like, I'm just a high energy kid. This is kind of like, this is my filter in life. This is what I do. This has been my life for, almost 14, 15 years. And so, now I'm off the mat for 10 months and I'm just like, what do I do with myself? So I was just like craving, trying to get back in the room. And like, I would wrestle on my knees, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, I could just get to my feet. It would be like, okay, now I'm drilling on my feet, and, now I'm sparring, and I go a little too hard, and up, back it off. And there were a couple of times where I just, like, I over pushed it, and I remember I was working with this guy, and he says, I wasn't quite ready, but, if I was willing to take the shot, I could. And I competed at a national tournament, so doing really, really well, quarters match, picking up a leg, and just, I step up deep, and it just freaking completely retore.
Oh.
So it was just like it was kind of just a continuation of that process, and it was really difficult because obviously I wanted nothing more than to just be back on the mat, but in that moment you have to be smart, and you have to just like take the time. Like, if I could go back, I would be, it would have been 3 months had I just waited, and instead it was over more than 3 times that amount because I was just stubborn.
I think that's really, really common in jiu-jitsu.
And I think in almost any combat sport.
Probably any combat sport.
Maybe every sport.
Every sport. Yeah. It's probably not unique to jiu-jitsu.
You want to get back to it,
It's
hard.
Yeah. I've done it. Josh has done it.
Currently, I've done it before. I'm currently dealing with it again. I gotta make sure I don't re-injure myself.
Yep. We've all been through it. I know we all want to be on the mats, and that's that's another one of our goals.
Yeah.
At Victory Submission Strength is like teaching people how to take care of themselves. Yeah. Both before, so that they don't get injured, or if they do, not as often, and after, making sure that they're strong enough so that they're, when they go back on the mats, that they don't get themselves re-injured. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah. No, it was a big learning experience. I mean, I do a better job stretching now. If I'm feeling any aches and pains, maybe I just take that day off. It won't hurt. It's better take one day versus, have to take a whole week because maybe I just strain something a little bit.
Yeah.
For my sister, it was a big learning experience for her. She tore her ACL this year, and because of my injury, we did a really good job of making sure that she didn't go too fast. Making sure that she was 100% clear before she got back on the mat. And so obviously that benefited her because, she could have easily been in the same shoes.
Right.
Trying to get back to early and just like retore it.
Did she had surgery on it, I would assume?
She did. Yeah, she did.
Was it, do you know what kind of surgery was it? Did they take a part of her quad or part of her hamstring, or?
I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The reason I ask is I've seen now several ACL surgeries, and it is fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
Sure. It is.
I think it was her quad now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So it was a quadectomy, and so they take part of the quad and then they feed it through.
Yeah. It's a brutal process.
It is. Yeah. It is a brutal process. It's something that I hope nobody has to go through, but where did she get the surgery done? Was it local, or did she?
I think it was in Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
in Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
when it was like when you were injured, and I guess either at the time and now, like retrospectively looking at it, how and if at all did it change your approach to learning wrestling? Um, were you like, I don't know, watching a bunch more match footage, or like what were
Yeah.
you doing to like study when?
Mostly,
Yeah.
mostly a lot of film work.
Got
A
it.
lot of film work. You can get, I'm at the level where I can almost drill in my mind. Like you can almost just do
Yeah.
mental reps.
Yeah.
And like, I've noticed this with when I'm learning new moves now. Is I'll see them, I'll watch them, I'll start to drill them, and then I'll just start to solve the problem at home. Like I'm like drilling it in my mind, and then I'll do it the next day, and I'm like, I got it down, I got it. Like I feel like I've already done it a few times, and it's crazy now that I'm talking about it because you can almost like really see it the more you get into it. So that was definitely a big one, is the mental reps and the watching film, and then focusing on the other attributes. I lifted a lot, like the strength training became a big component of life, and a lot of lifting. We started putting on a lot of size. I would
And
say
working
that
on things that weren't injured,
Yeah.
while the thing that was injured started to heal.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, once I started to get better, just focusing on positions that I could do. For example, I could wrestle on my knees just fine. So we were working on something called front headlock, which is basically where they're on the ground and I'm like have a headlock and scoring from there. And, we just like perfecting those areas, perfecting the areas that I could perfect, So yeah, I would say that's mostly what my training consisted of.
Got it. Are you just like on YouTube, like searching for matches? Is that wait? Okay.
You kind of got to like stay up with like who's doing well and who's not. I mean, there's always tournaments, so you can find the world level guys, and just kind of go back and watch their films. I would do like these whole breakdown analysis. I would choose a guy that was really good, and I would literally scour the internet, find every match that I could watch, and I would just put them down on a spreadsheet of things I like, things that I would screen record, things that I really thought were cool that when I'm ready to go, I'm gonna try these, and then I'd like save them into my camera roll, whatever, and I'd create folders. Like I got really analytical with everything.
That's cool.
That's what I was gonna ask next, was like how you're keeping track of it, and like how you're like almost developing like a curriculum of things you're gonna work on.
Yeah. For a while when I was a kid, we had a spreadsheet, and it was like all of my attacks. I mean, we had like maybe 50 attacks. All of my defense, all of my there's different positions, so it's just like every position had like maybe 20, 30, 40 moves that I could hit. And as we've gotten more advanced, we've kind of broken that down into the things that I like and that I can, really perfect, because as cool as it is to know 50 different moves, it's also more important that I'm good at 5, really good at 5.
Right.
So I, for the most part, I just like, they're all trapped in here. We still have the spreadsheet that has a lot of them, stuff that I save into my camera roll, so it's just kind of saved everywhere, and I can access it whenever I want.
Got it. And then so it originally started where like when you were first going through the learning process, where you had like every possible thing that you could do from like every position.
Yeah, it just kept going. The list just, as we got older and more advanced, the list just kept going on.
And then you were like, this is way too much stuff. I need to stop spreading myself so thin. Let me condense it to the things I'm good at. And so it's like really personalized to you almost. Yeah. I imagine if you made that spreadsheet for you and another wrestler, it would be different.
100%. Okay. I forgot what tournament it was that we made that realization that we have a little bit too much, that we just, we need to choose a certain amount of attacks that we just need to get really good at. I think maybe it was like in the tournament, just like, I think it was like in that moment, it was like a short time score, and I had a minute to score, and I couldn't rely on one thing. So we were just kind of breaking down like what you're really good at, what you're physically, right, what kind of, based on your attributes, what kind of attacks would work for you. And then we just, would rep those a lot, and then we'd have like the other ones that maybe we do once a week, just so I still had them up here, maybe like, 30 seconds in a match, and I just feel that, and because I've done it before, I know I can go to that. But mostly, for the most part, I'm like sticking to my main offense, the stuff that I know works, my bread and butter.
Right. So I guess what I was gonna say is like, the analogy that I've heard used before is all these things, like they're like different tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
You need a hammer and you need a screwdriver and you need like all the basics.
Yep.
That's your like long list of techniques.
100%.
But then you have to have your specialty tools, right? You have to have the 5 or 6 things that are there to get a very specific job done.
Yeah. You might have like one extra drill bit for like a specific,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe you use one time, but it's, you needed it for that one time.
Yeah, exactly.
So like with those like your specialty tools or whatever, so you're going into the wrestling room, and are you guys just like, because the reason I'm asking this is because I'm also in this process of trying to figure out how to learn better.
Yeah.
100%. And like traditionally in jiu-jitsu, we'll go to class, and the instructor or whoever owns the gym has like a curriculum that you learn, right? And then no matter really who the student is, I guess, because the classes are more general population, also it's a mix of hobbyists and competitors and stuff. Everybody sort of learns a similar thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like your approach is more tailored towards you as the competitor, right? So are you going to the wrestling room and then you have those like X number of things that you're really good at, and are you trying to just literally just drill those same things every day, and then you're adding new things in there, or?
Yeah, so going to what you said, wrestling, that's a thing too. We have our general practices. I think it's really important that, at least twice a week you have tailored practices. So maybe, you come in for a session, or it's just that session. You're working with coach and your partner, and or it could just be your partner, and you're doing things that you need to work on. Because, and you see this in college wrestling a lot, they're giving you a general education, right? Like general, these are the positions that we need to work on, but that might not be what you need to work on. And so it's important that you're refining your abilities and what you need to do. And if you're just doing what everybody else is working on, that's not helping you, right? For example, let's say I need to work on my arm bar, but today we're all working on chokes because chokes are more effective or something, and you're like, I really need to perfect this part of my arm bar. You need to have that day, that private day where I'm just working on my setups, my arm bars, and how to get there, and how to, like that's really important for each individual athlete.
Got it. And for you, does that normally happen at the same time that like the general training would be happening? So you're taking that same time, but using it for...
I'll split it up.
Okay.
I'll split it up. Like I said, I'll have my days where I just work with my coach.
Yeah.
On my days where I go to practice. On my days where I'll do 2 days, and I have one practice with coach and one practice with, everybody else. So I'm getting different feels and stuff like that.
Okay, you're mixing it up throughout the week. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've been like, I'm trying to figure out how to do that too. Like, I guess something that would be closest to that for like jiu-jitsu people is like going to class and then like finding somebody to drill with outside of class, which is
what we've been doing,
right?
More or less, yeah.
Right.
So, I'm curious to know, because when I coached you on the ice was kind of the beginning of the small area game era in USA hockey. And Josh and I have been playing with this actually just today. We're playing around with like games that have specific constraints that are meant to elicit certain reactions or certain outcomes or just certain positions. And I'm curious to know if there's anything like that in wrestling.
Yeah, they call them situations.
Okay.
So basically, I think this is what we're talking about. Like, for example, they'll throw you in a position, and they'll say, 1, 2, 3 live, and you're wrestling from that position. So it could be like, I'm extended on a shot, and they're in a position of advantage, and I got to figure out how to score from there. And obviously we'll, before that we're drilling it, working on what to do, and then we just, it's hitting the position in a live scenario.
All right.
I think that's
similar.
It's very similar. Yeah. For the jiu-jitsu people listening, it came the inspiration for that was more like this they call it the ecological approach. There's this guy named Greg Souders. Anyway, if anybody listening to this is interested, you can look it up. Which is very close to situational sparring, as people are very familiar with already in jiu-jitsu. But I was curious for the sort of the situations that you're talking about, how many constraints are in place? So like the context for this is, for example, in jiu-jitsu, when we do situational sparring, we might start in like a half guard position or something. And then in situational sparring, what a lot of the time what happens is like one of the players just completely changes the position, and now you're not even working from half guard anymore, so it kind of like it misses the point.
So we'll just kind of like restart from there, I guess. Like, you know, if I'm given that like position where I'm in on a leg, let's say now I get to a body lock or something, and we get up to our feet, and when somebody's about to throw each other, it's like, okay, restart, go back down to that, you know, scoring from that position.
Are you explicit with like what the constraints are then? Are you guys saying like if we get to a body lock, let's reset, or are you just kind of like, okay, we're not working the position anymore? Like,
I think it's just kind of like
kind of intuitive
thing. Yeah, you kind of know, you know,
Okay.
we're deviating right here. We're working on finishing, not throwing each other, right? So if we're up here locking each other up, probably should, you know, restart and get back to
Okay. And you and your partner just kind of know that.
Yeah, just kind of like tap, restart again. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. We were playing with like just even way more constraints. So like the specific position that Josh and I were working on today was like what would be called half butterfly. It's like a half guard with a butterfly hook. And then my goal as the bottom player was solely to try to put both of his hands on the mat. That was it. And if we ever left the position, we had to restart. Or if I ever got his hands on the mat, then we just backed up and played from there.
And then I had a goal. So like his goal was to put my hands on the mat, and he was not allowed to leave the position that he was in. Right.
I couldn't like switch to half guard.
Right.
I would say it's the same in wrestling.
Okay.
You know, like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And the term for that is just called situations in wrestling.
Yeah, we just call it situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And how much like in the bulk of your training period, how much time is spent on that versus like repping moves, for example?
I would say a good amount of time. It's like, you know, I'll be drilling on something. In fact, almost any time I do individual work, I'll mix one of those in. And usually it's not a full live situation. It's a spar. It's like the guy will give me a 70-80% feel. And so I have a gist of what to do. I can still kind of work on my technique without having the full resistance. And it also prevents us from completely deviating, because if it's full live, now the other guy kind of wants to score too. And so, you know, maybe he's like, you know, not hitting the correct attack to give me the right feel or whatever.
Right.
Got it.
So making it, you know, focused on the guy that's working the position, but also giving him like a realistic hard feel so he can work it with resistance.
Oh, it's goal oriented for one specific person in this situation.
Yeah.
Got it. So interesting. Yeah, because a lot of the times in our situational sparring, it's more goal oriented for both players, right?
Really?
And then you just start fighting.
It's the bottom person, their goal is to sweep the top person, and the top person's goal is to pass, and next thing you know, you have like
it's like
very
now,
high intensity.
That's you know, and so like usually you make that clear in wrestling. It's like, let's say you were working on clearing guard. It's like, you know, the top guy's working on clearing the guard, and the bottom guy's just kind of hooking, give him the right feel, making it hard, but making sure he's doing it right to get out, and allowing him to kind of do that.
Right.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense to me. And that's actually, I guess, in the way that we set up the constraints for our game was like more goal oriented for me to figure out how to pass the guard, whereas I still had a way to lose though. Like I could still reset if you touched my hands to the mat, so there was still a risk involved. Okay. And then it's interesting you differentiated between sparring and going live, and I guess when we say sparring, we're talking about going live. Yeah. And so what's the difference there in wrestling?
So sparring, we call it actually play wrestling.
Okay.
Play wrestling. So it's like, you know, it's not quite live, but it's like a level of resistance that makes it difficult for both guys to score. And there's different levels of that. There's like, you know, we can go situational play wrestling. Both guys are in a 50-50 position. Maybe both guys are grabbing an ankle and we're working from there. It could be goal oriented, like we talked about. You know, one guy's starting in with a leg and he's got to finish, and the other guy's giving him a hard sprawl, but letting him build up enough to kind of work the position. And then it could just be like we're on our feet and we're just having a little bit of fun, you know, getting to different attacks that maybe we wouldn't be able to get to in a full live situation, but kind of still practicing them. And it's like, you know, you're giving them, making it hard, but you're letting them get in, and then, you know, you're letting them kind of defend and getting in weird positions. And so it allows you to get in a lot of unique positions that maybe you wouldn't get in a full live situation. You know, maybe I shoot in a live situation and you just sprawl and flatten me out and then go behind. Instead, now we're like in some weird scramble that I might see once in another time, but now that I've gotten there before in a live match, now I might know what to do from there because I've been there before, you know.
Right.
Got it. And then, so how much time is spent like play wrestling compared to like going live then?
I would say I play wrestle more than I go live.
Got it.
You know, because when you're going live, that's like, you know, it's pretty intense, especially in wrestling. We're going freaking hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's better on the body usually to play wrestle. I would say I do a little bit more play wrestling than I do live.
Got it.
But, you know, sometimes to build that toughness, you do need those live goes. That's like where, you know, the grit is built.
Got it.
That's something that I think is still developing in jiu-jitsu rooms. Is like
the
play aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I was talking to Jeff, you know, but I was talking to one of our training partners last week or 2 weeks ago maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And we are talking about kind of the prevalence of injury in jiu-jitsu and why maybe it's so it's just like there's so many more injuries. Is I think the natural predisposition for everyone in jiu-jitsu is like squeeze and not let things happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's no letting your partner do anything. It's like always there's no like goal orientation really, unless you're drilling.
Right. And so the thing that I brought up to Jeff was, you know, looking to your experience in judo is like when people in judo know they're caught, they just let it go.
They fall.
They just fall.
Yeah.
They just like let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
Mm-hmm.
you could I'm sure speak to that. It's like, and so I think it seems like the prevalence of injury in other sports, other grappling sports, other combat sports is maybe a little bit less because they have that mentality of play where it's okay if things don't go your way. It's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that even I'm still learning. Like, you know, I'm like just at brown belt starting to put myself in positions that maybe I wouldn't otherwise have put myself in, you know, at white or blue or purple because of my ego maybe getting in the way. And so that's an interesting point that you make about play more than going live.
Yeah. I think it's a really important that you have both. Like you do need live. I think it's important that you have, you know, the play wrestling so I can work my positions but also get that realistic feel. And then and I feel like that's where a lot of times where you're getting better. And for, you know, especially in wrestling, the live is where you're building that grit component. You know, they'll throw on a 10-20 minute go. And, you know, after 2 minutes, you're exhausted, and that's where you're entering deep waters, and that's where you build that component of mental toughness. And yeah, there's a lot of, you know, technique that goes into it too, but that's kind of like live is where, you know, I'm clubbing, I'm like, you know, I'm hitting you, and we're just going hard, getting, you know, sometimes some, you know, guys will break into a fight, and you know, sometimes you just need that. You need that bit of toughness. But I would say play wrestling is really where you're kind of repping things out and you know, ending up in weird positions and, you know, getting the right feels and stuff. And then live is like where that ego comes into play. I'm really trying to score and prevent you from scoring.
Right. It sounds like there's a very clear separation.
There
right.
Is.
Where
really is,
where I think the way we do it typically, not you and me, but jiu-jitsu people, it's very muddy. Like the boundaries aren't clear, right? So what you get is maybe one partner who wants to be in a live position, a live situation versus sparring, and the other guy is not on board with that. And it sounds like it really struck me what you said, where like the play wrestling is where you're getting better, and then the live, I think this is what you said, the play wrestling and the situations are where you're developing skills, and then the live is where you're developing grit and like.
And like that's like your, I guess, your stinginess or whatever. Like I'm not gonna let you score no matter what. You're not gonna let me score. Right. You know, that's what that period is.
That seems like a very nice line to draw. Yeah. Joseph Chen I don't know if this is what he was talking about. There's a grappler named Joseph Chen. He's kind of a younger guy. I think he's probably like 20 right now or something.
I have no clue.
Yeah, but he was on this other podcast, BJJ Mental Models, and he was talking about as what sounds like a similar concept, which is honing versus evolving. And honing was more this like performance oriented aspect where you're using all the tools that you're really good at and just trying to like implement them. And that would be for more competition focus, I guess. And maybe that's kind of like the live situations he's talking about versus of evolution, which is beneficial when you're doing like situations and drilling and yeah. And I think we're still kind of in our infancy still with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
yeah, that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, that's all I had on that, I think.
Yeah. Actually, another thing that we do in wrestling, and again, because it's such a competition oriented sport, this is really important, is we'll have match days. So that's big on Fridays. We'll have like, you throw on your singlet and they have a referee and the whistle blows, and it's your practice room, but it's mimicking that match environment, and you're not quite getting the full like, because you don't have the audience or whatever, so you're not quite getting those full nerves, but it's mimicking, strapping up my singlet, strapping up my shoes. I got somebody keeping score. I got people watching me. Right. And so I think that's another important thing to have is like, and also the match management, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in a 3 minute go is different than a match, because I can let it all go in 3 minutes. I'm not being held accountable for anything. In a match, I have to kind of control what happens, and there's tactics involved, and so it's important to also have the match, like the actual match aspect of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're sort of like building up from all the way from drilling to situations, play wrestle, live match days.
Yeah,
right.
Match days, yeah.
We had a coach, BJJ Lab in Zurich, Pat, when I was training over there. On their comp days, he would actually bring in a speaker with crowd noises that he recorded.
Yeah, we've had that before too. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say exactly that. Is that's what we were talking about on the mats earlier. Is like is building up from from the drill to a more live situation, or in this case match day, and how it's important to have all of those things. Not just one, or maybe not as heavily loaded on one as it is to have, or I guess not an equal distribution of them, because you couldn't have like 20% match days and 20% this and 20%,
right.
But having a balance of all of those different scenarios and being clear about what the intention of each training session is, I think is really, really important, and something that I think jiu-jitsu people in general could benefit from long term.
Yeah. Are there like non-negotiables though that you're doing every practice? Like every practice, say for example, are you always making sure that you're getting reps and then doing situations, or are there like things that happen every time no matter what?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, the drilling is something that's, I'm always drilling, like starting my practice with like a 15-minute, 20-minute drill of just, flowing and repping out my different attacks, and kind of just like, so that's a little bit different. There's two like different ways of drilling. There's, I'm just going to work on one thing. You're kind of not giving me much feel, and I'm just like over and over and over hitting the same thing. And then there's like, I kind of just like, we're just wrestling, and I choose what I want to hit based on the reaction you give. So there's like, I'm trying to think of a good example. It might be like if you versus like repping out an armbar, hitting an armbar over and over, versus starting from your feet and then like getting into a position into a submission. And so those are like the two different stages of drilling, and I do both of those. I try to do those every single day.
Oh, so there's like a specific move, and then there's where you might kind of more of a route that you would get to that move, but you're still focusing on getting to that move. Okay.
It's like I might hit a Kimura on a triangle every single day. I always do those because those are my go-tos, and then I also have my, starting from the feet, getting into a different some kind of submission of some sort.
Okay. Oh, so you're always devoting time to like getting the reps on the things that you're already good at.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Got it. And then okay, so you're doing those two types of drilling. Yeah, it's still like a progression, right? It's like one isolated move.
Yeah.
Like one sort of route drilling.
We can get so complex with
this stuff. Yeah.
It's just
That's really cool.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just nerding out on like this learning methodology stuff right now. Just because of my injury, but yeah, I don't know if you had any other.
Cool. No.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. Aden, let's leave it right there, man. That was so useful. I am always very impressed by the way you carry yourself, the way you speak. You did a great job. That was fucking awesome. I think there's a lot of stuff that the jiu-jitsu people listening can take from a conversation like this. Before we head out, what do you want people listening to do? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I mean, you can just, and Aden Valencia and still, keep up with my competitions and stuff like that. And yeah, that's about it. This year is a big year for me. I'm trying to become one of the youngest Olympic champions ever. I'm just turned 18, and these next couple months are devoted to making a team, and assuming all goes well, I'll be competing in the Olympics in this August. So
we'll be following along the whole way. I cannot wait to see it. As I said before, man, super proud of you. It's been really cool to see the man you become.
Appreciate
from the little 11-year-old kid. I'll never forget, actually, before we go, the very first time I ever met you. I don't know if you remember this.
We'll see. Maybe.
Was at a Gretzky hour. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And
I do remember
you were just trying to shoot the puck off the crossbar and in. And I'll never forget, man. You ripped it off the crossbar and down, and you're like, I just went Bargentina.
Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember
I was
that.
Like, oh my god. Okay,
Bargentina.
Bar south, like the
Argentina.
Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
I was like, who the hell is this kid? And then he's on my team the next year. I'm like, holy shit, man.
That's so funny. I do remember that story really well. Yeah.
The kid is built different. He's built different. Watch out for him, Aden Valencia. I'm super stoked to see all that you do, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's great being on here too.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode. If you enjoy this podcast, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us at Thanks for the Roll on Instagram and TikTok. Give us 5 stars wherever you listen. Write us a review and share this episode with someone you think would benefit from it. See you next time. Thanks for the roll.
Thanks for the roll.
Thanks for the roll.
He got it.
And he got it.
He got it.
He got it.
Some people don't get it.
Some people don't get it. Man. You got it.